I am so excited to be here with you tonight and talk a little bit about business systems. Chris reached out to me a while ago and we chatted a bit about, what would be a good topic. And this is something I'm passionate about, so I'm excited to be here and share some of it with you. And let's just go ahead and jump right in. If we have not met yet, hi, I'm Jamie, and I do a lot of things. I like to do a lot of things at the same time. I dabble in a lot of areas. I'm a business coach, I'm a TPT seller, I have a full-time career as an instructional designer. I'm a wife, a former fourth grade teacher, gluten-free baker. I love reading, kind of obsessed with marketing strategy. Mostly, I'm just a really normal person. I like to have a lot of things going on. I like to be really busy, but at the core of all the things that I'm doing in my business is my passion for connecting with other people. And I think that's kind of the thread that's taken me through every little journey that I've been on. And honestly, business systems are such a crucial part of what makes it all work for me. And I'm excited to kind of take you behind the scenes a bit and share with you some key business systems that I found to be really valuable for my own business and also for the businesses of other TPT sellers that I work with. So let me tell you a little bit about my journey, and this Zoom bit is covering this up. So let me just make that smaller. There we go. Here's what I've been up to over the last decade of my life. In 2016, I started my TPT store. A big part of it for me was the freedom that it gave me to create and to connect with other teachers. I started sharing my resources on Instagram, and I had so much fun getting to know other fourth grade teachers around the world. And maybe you've had similar experiences in your TPT store. I enjoyed what I was doing on Instagram, and I wrote a blog post on my blog in 2019 about how to start your own teacher Instagram account. And one of my pins for that post, I can't really say it went viral, but it was very popular, and I got a lot of hits to my blog and a lot of people emailing me about it. And so I wrote a series of blog posts about how to run your Instagram account that summer in 2019. And in August, I started teaching for a new school district. And in that district, they had a policy that teachers couldn't sell things on TPT. And so it seemed like a really natural pivot for me at that time that I transitioned from mostly talking about stuff for Teachers Pay Teachers to supporting other sellers with their Instagram marketing. And, my business kind of evolved a little bit from there. I started the first Spring Fling I hosted was in 2020. We've had 6 spring flings now, getting ready for our 7th in 2026. And during that period of time, I also got my master's degree, and I left the classroom and got a job working as an instructional designer at a university in 2022. And I took on my first business coaching clients also in 2022. And since then, I've done all those things. I still have a TPT store. I still run Spring Fling. I'm still working at a university. I'm still coaching other clients. And having systems in my business has kind of been the thread that's allowed me to do all of these different things and keep it all running. So that's really the thing that I came here to talk about with you is what are some simple systems that you can set up in your own business so that you can keep all of your things running. Like you're probably not doing all of the same things that I'm doing, but you're probably doing some of the same things, like you're teaching, you're selling on TPT, you have a life. There's a lot of things that are moving and running, and having systems can help those things flow smoothly. There are lots of simple systems that you can implement in your business. Business systems, typically when people are talking about systems, fall into a few different categories. So we talk about standard processes, automatic processes, and data analysis as these 3 categories of systems that you can set up for your business. And when we're talking about a system, what we mean is a planned and intentional way of doing something. So in a standard process, that can be something that you do over and over again. You plan it and you intentionally do it the same way. An automatic process, you can schedule automations and set things up to happen kind of automatically, planned and intentionally. And with data analysis, you have these planned, intentional ways that you're looking at data. An effective business needs all 3 types of systems. And tonight, I'm just going to take you through each one of those and talk about one thing that you can take away from there. So that by the end of what I'm sharing with you, you can have one standard process that you're ready to build. You can have one automatic process that you're ready to set up and one scheduled way to look at your data. But through all of that, before I dive into it, I really want to give you this reminder that as the owner of your business, you get to decide what those systems look like. And so I can give you examples of ways that I've set up systems in my own life, but it's really important that you're making the decision of what your business looks like for you. You know the constraints on your time, you know the things that are happening in your business, so you as the decision maker are going to decide, what does this really look like for me? So I don't want you to walk away thinking that you need to make your business look exactly like mine, because then I would have failed at really empowering you to run your own business. Just having this moment to say, take all this information in and then make a decision. How does this work for you and where you're going to go next? All right, so I said I was going to take you through each of these different categories, and I'm going to start by talking about standard processes. When we're talking about business systems that are standard processes, the whole goal of this type of system is to reduce your mental load. How do you make the things that you have to remember lighter so that you have more space and more brain capacity to focus on other things? And this is through standard processes. So, what is a standard process? Um, Oftentimes, people call standard processes SOPs, or standard operating procedures. You might hear that term in the business world sometimes. Really, this is the specific way that your business does something. Anything that you do more than once can become a standard process. So you can think of this like a checklist or a plan. If you're managing a team, it can get very complicated where you have a particular process that your team is going to follow. But most teacher sellers are just a one-person business, and so you don't need something super complicated. You're just making a checklist or a plan of the way that you do something so that you don't have to remember all the steps in your mind. You have it kind of written down. And before I go further on that, I want to kind of clarify that point a little bit further. I hear a lot of messaging from some of the, big business gurus online talking about the need to make SOPs really early in your business and to plan for the big company that you might have someday. And the truth is that TPT sellers are mostly one-person businesses, and that is completely okay and a really normal way of running your business. You don't need to start planning for the business that you might someday get to years and years in the future. When you're making processes for your business, you want to make systems that work for where you're at right now, and systems that are going to take you to the next step you're going to go to. And then when you get to that step, you'll figure out what system's going to take you to the next step. But even when you're writing a standard process or a checklist of how you do something, and I'm going to get into that in the next few slides, what that might look like, you don't have to feel stressed or pressure to figure out the standard way your business operates forever. This is the way your business operates now, and that's going to take you to the next step. And when you get there and this process doesn't fit, you as the business owner are going to choose to change it. And that is so normal. An analogy that I use a lot of times when I'm talking to people about this is like moving. If you think about the first place you lived when you left your parents' home, that probably wasn't the place that you hoped you would live in forever. And when it was time for you to move somewhere else and you packed up, it was stressful and annoying. And if you've never had to move, that is so lucky for you, because it's a really stressful and annoying process. But you did it, you packed up and you moved to a new location, and then you had to figure out new processes like where are the forks going to go? And, does the cereal go on top of the fridge or does it go somewhere else? Just like you had to figure out new processes in your new home, as your business grows and change, you'll find new processes. And so I just want to release you from the pressure of feeling like if you pick a standard process, it's how your business is going to be forever. We're just talking about, how is your business now? How can you standardize something that you're doing today? So that's what a standardized process is. Here are the three kind of main things to think about when you're creating a standard process. It has to actually work for you and make your life easier. So if standardize something makes you feel trapped, then that's not a good process to implement as a system. And it does not have to be ready to hand off if you don't have a team member. If you're not hiring someone to create pins for you, then you don't have to have a standard process in this perfect format for someone else to understand. If it's just for you to read, you're the only person who needs to be able to read it. And then it's your business. You make the rules. You get to decide what order things go in. You don't have to go find a checklist from somebody else about how to create a product. You can follow your own checklist. And maybe somebody else's checklist helped you get started. And now you make the rules for your business. You get to kind of settle into that. So let's talk a little bit about some standard processes you might have heard of before, and then I'm going to kind of guide you to think about what's a standard process you could implement for yourself. Some SOPs you might know about already is like a product creation checklist. And I mentioned this just a second ago, thinking about what are the steps you follow when you create a product. So maybe you start by designing it in PowerPoint, and then you add your terms of use page, and then you add your thank you list page, and then you add some, resources you might be interested in, and then you turn it into a PDF. What are the steps that you follow? Now, those might not be your steps, and that's okay. Like what are the steps that happen for you when you create a resource? It's one example of a standard process. A second example is like a product preview template. Chances are when you're posting new products in your store and you're creating a preview for them, you have kind of a standard way that you create previews from your store. And if you're not at that point yet and you're still figuring that out, that might be a good standard process to start with. What's the process you're going to follow to create a product preview? What's that going to look like for your store? Another example of standard processes is like product thumbnail templates. When you're creating your thumbnails, what does that process look like for you? Do you take photographs of your project? Do you use mockups? Do you use screenshots? It's unique to your business, even if it's very similar to the way other people do it, it's still something unique for you. So these are examples of standard processes that you might have heard of before. The takeaway that I want you to have, because we're focusing tonight on 3 systems for your business, is start with one checklist. I don't want you to leave this session and think you need to make a checklist for every single thing that you do. Just start with one thing. And the thing that's the best to start with is, what's the thing when you sit down to work on it, you're like, now wait, how do I do that? What do I usually start with? Where do I usually begin? Do I usually open up this document? No, I usually start with this document first. Anytime you've had that feeling, that's the moment that you're ready for a checklist for that standard process. You want to reduce the mental load and your energy spent remembering and let the checklist remember how the process works. And you as the business owner are going to write down what are the steps that you follow. So, one standard process for your business. And let's go back to talking about those simple systems. We've gone through one type of simple system to put in your business, a standard process. And once you've made one that can kind of inspire you to make more, let's pivot a little and talk about automatic processes. And I'm going to pause and take a drink of water, and then I'll keep talking. All right, so typically when we're talking about systems for automatic processes in your business, people are talking about funnels. And I'm going to break down for you what a funnel is and how it works, but funnels are the secret thing that are making automatic processes flow in your business. There are so many ways to make a funnel, and they can be very complicated, and I want us to talk about very simple funnels tonight. You can grow into more complex funnels later in your business, but for this moment, let's talk about the main concept of a funnel. A funnel is a planned sequence of content that guides your customers towards your resources automatically. The goal is that once you set up the pieces of your funnel, you don't have to touch it again. It's already set up. You can think of a funnel as a path your audience is walking down. You've already built the path that takes them from resource to resource to resource, and now it just exists. And anytime someone enters that pathway, they're guided to the next things. So at its core, a funnel is about this kind of system of guidance. And the reason why it's called a funnel, and I made the path kind of this shape on the screen as well, is that you'll have people enter that funnel. And as they move further down this pathway that you've built for them, fewer people make it all the way to the end. And that's kind of the goal, because the point of your funnel is to find who's the ideal buyer for the thing you've chosen to put at the destination. Now, this gets a little complicated and a little tricky to understand, so I want to break it down for you really simply. Kind of the basic piece of a funnel is there's some kind of entrance, some kind of way that people get into the funnel. Remember, a funnel is just a path, some kind of way that they start going down that path. And usually this entrance piece is free. It's some kind of way that you're capturing a lot of people. And then after they've gotten this free thing from you, now you're going to give them little checkpoints where hopefully they're paying you money for something. And so then you're saying like, oh, look, here is something else that you might be interested in. Oh, look, here's something else that you might be interested in. All with this goal of taking them to a specific destination. And I like to think of planning funnels as very similar to backwards design, something you've used to plan lessons before, thinking about where are you wanting them to end up, and now how can you guide them step by step to get there. Now, there are so many ways that you can do this in your business. Here's a few that you might have already heard of before. And then we're going to take one of these and break it down really simply so that you can feel like you know how to make this happen for you. One type of funnel that you might know about is a welcome sequence. Now, a welcome sequence is a way of sending automatic emails to somebody when they join your email list. So the entrance of this funnel is your free opt-in to your email list. And now you have these checkpoints where you're sending emails to your audience and you're offering them something else that they might be interested in. It's a really simple funnel that maybe you've heard about before. If you don't have an email list, I don't want your takeaway from this session to be that you have to have one in order to have an automatic process, because there are other automatic processes that exist for you. For example, your product intro pages. This is a really easy example of a funnel that someone downloads a product from you. And in those first few pages, you're telling them, hey, here's other resources you might be interested in. You are guiding them down that path. And this one might start to cue in for you how not everyone who starts the funnel makes it to the next step and makes it to the next step. And that's okay. Because when you're planning your funnel, you're trying to find the ideal buyer for that one thing. And then you're kind of walking back. How do you get that person there? And so when you make your product intro pages, you're not thinking, oh, every person who downloads this product is then going to go buy every offer that's related here. But some of them might, and you've set it up automatically. So now you don't have to do anything. Now, anytime someone downloads that product, automatically they're being introduced to your other offers there from those product intro pages. That's another example of a funnel. And then a third example of a funnel that you might already know about is bundle upsells. If you use the TPT bundle tool to create your bundle, automatically there on the page for your product, it's promoting your bundle. It's a really easy example of a funnel. Not everyone who comes to your product decides to purchase the bundle, but some of them do, and it's automatically there. You don't have to do anything extra once it's set up. So I'm hoping with these three examples, it can kind of get you thinking a little bit of what's an automatic process you could set up in your business to guide people on a path through your different offers. And just like we were talking about starting with one checklist, I want you to leave kind of thinking, what's one path that you can set up for your offers? What's one pathway that you can guide your audience down, just one simple funnel? And I'm going to give you a few examples of ways that you could make that happen. So when you're setting things up for your funnel, you want to start with the end in mind. And a really easy way to think of that is like with a bundle. You want this to be something that's priced higher than your other resources, something that has a little more value than the other things that you're offering, because that's kind of the goal of the funnel. You want to make it worth it for you, that you're finding the ideal buyer for this higher price bundle that you have to offer. And this can be any bundle that you have, and now you're going to walk backwards. What's a collection of products that are all related to that bundle? Might be the product line that they're in. And if your business isn't currently structured this way, that's okay. Think of like a higher priced offer you want to guide them to, what's something that's related to it. Now walk it back one more step from that. What's something, just one product from that product line? Just one thing from that. And now walk it back one step further. What's something free that you could offer someone that would be related to that related product? And one step further, okay, how are you going to tell people about that free product? So if you were to set this up in your own business, one example might be if you have a bundle of your entire product line of place value resources. This is something that I have in my store right now. And so my funnel that's guiding people toward that bundle looks like this. On the Instagram account that I have for my TPT store, I have a pinned post talking about place value. And in it, I say you can get a free place value resource in my bio. When someone downloads that free place value resource, in those product intro pages, I tell them about a related product. So my free place value resource is a few place value vocabulary terminology, just like different place value terms. And the related product is a game that students play to practice that vocabulary. So in my free product, I'm promoting the related product, saying, hey, if you like this product, you might also like this. When someone purchases that place value game from me, inside those product intro pages, I talk about, hey, if you like this place value game, I have a whole collection of place value games that you might be interested in. Here's where you can find them in my store. Do you see how my funnel is really intentionally and automatically guiding people to my different resources? And then in every resource of that product line, I have in my product intro pages telling people, hey, by the way, I have a bundle where you can get all of these things at a discount. If you like this game, you might like the whole collection of place value resources that I have, and that's a bundle that I have. Now in my store, I've set up these kinds of funnels throughout all the things that I'm building. Don't start by trying to do all of it. Start by just trying to do one. What's one simple path that you can build in your store? What's one way that you can guide people towards a higher price offer? So we talked about standard processes, and we talked about automatic processes. And now I want to talk a little bit about data analysis systems, a third type of system that you can set up in your teacher business to help things run smoothly. So when it comes to data analysis, the reason why we want to have systems for data analysis is because analyzing our data is what helps us grow. It helps us know what it is that's working and what it is that's not. And then we know where to focus our time and where to not focus our time. And doing this in a system, which, if you remember, I talked about what's a system, it's a planned and intentional way to do something over and over again. So having a planned, intentional way to analyze data in your business can help your business keep growing. Here's kind of a definition of that. When we're talking about data analysis, we're talking about looking for trends and stories within the data that you collect for your business. TPT already provides you with data. You can go look at your store dashboard and you can find different information. If you have a social media account, you can get data from your social media account about who is following you, how many people engage with your content. If you have an email list, you can get data from your email list. If you have a blog, you can get data from your blog. So all these places, the numbers already exist. The task for you is to look at those numbers and look for trends and stories. Trends are things that you see happening repeatedly, things that are happening over and over again, or things that are happening consistently, things that are increasing or decreasing. That's a trend that you can look for in your data. And a story is kind of the information that you pull from that trend. Some examples of this might be the question, what do people typically buy at this type of year? So if I was looking at my store dashboard, I could say, okay, what do people usually buy in the middle of Thanksgiving from my store? And the reason why this piece of data is valuable to me is because now I know where to focus my marketing. And I can say at this time of year, my marketing should focus on the things people are interested in purchasing at this type of year. I already know what things are happening with my existing audience. Another question you could ask from your data is, why did my sales drop this month? You can say, were my views lower? Was I selling less expensive products than I sold last year? Was I participating in a bigger sale last year that I didn't participate in this year? Did I do more marketing last year than I did this year? Kind of looking at that data to figure out the reason why something is happening, so you know what to change to get a different result. Or what topics are most popular in my store? Do I have resources in a specific category that are selling over and over again? And are there things that I can do to make more resources in that category? Hopefully, this is helping you see that this data analysis can give you information about your store so that you can be a smarter business owner making those decisions about the data that you have. At its core, data analysis looks like this. You collect your data, you look for the trends, you make changes, you repeat. You can do this on a cycle of however it works best for you. In my business, I analyze data quarterly because that's when I have time to analyze data. I make time once a quarter, so 4 times a year, to look at my data, look for trends, and make changes in my plans. You might decide to analyze data once a year. You might decide to analyze data every month. I have clients who like to analyze their social media data weekly. It's up to you as the business owner to make the decision about how you're going to do it. Now, just like I did in those other 3 systems, I don't want your takeaway to be, I need to download all the data from everywhere that there is, and I need to look for all the trends and make a ton of changes. That will leave you feeling overwhelmed and will not be sustainable for your business. Instead, I want you to start with one segment of data. Maybe say, how is this one product line performing in my store? Or over the last year, what's my best-selling resource? Okay, now what is it about that resource that makes it a bestseller? Or in the last month, how much engagement did I get on my Instagram account? Choose one segment of data and have one data analysis session for yourself where you dive into that data. So I've introduced to you these 3 types of systems for your teacher business, which is standard processes, one checklist that can help you make something happen the same way every time and reduce your mental load. Automatic processes, one funnel where you've set things up so it's guiding your buyers along a path, and one data analysis system where you're sitting down and looking at a segment of data intentionally. I want to walk you through a few examples of TPT sellers that I've worked with and some stories about how they have used these kinds of systems and the impact it made for their business. So I'm going to take you through these examples, and then I'll have some time to answer questions that you might have about these types of systems. So I want to tell you that these are real people. I did change their name and I changed some of the details about their business to kind of protect their privacy. But the story's real and these are real things that happened. So here's a story about Ashley. And when Ashley and I first started working together, what Ashley wanted to do was to offer coaching services to help other new TPT sellers. She was successful in selling on TPT, but she wanted to start doing this new thing, and she didn't know how to put all the pieces together for this new offer. So we talked about these same types of systems that I just talked about with you. And we talked about, okay, what are some things that we could make into a standard process? What are some things that we could automate? What's some data that we can look at? And working together, Ashley and I came up with a plan. So we talked about some unique tracking tools that could be part of her standard process with her clients. So she could follow the same process every time she had another client. That made it really easy. She didn't have to try to figure it out when she started working with a new client. She already had that process standardized. And from that, it gave her a lot of clarity about her brand. So she felt like she knew how to do this new offer in her business. These little shifts that Ashley made from adding systems to her business helped her feel like she could put this new offer in the limited time that she had, and she knew exactly what she was going to do each time she worked with a client. Now, you might not be working with clients, so what's the takeaway for you? The takeaway is that having a standard process reduces your mental load. That when you write down a checklist and when you do something the same way over and over again, it can make it so you don't have to think about it every time. And then your brain power is free to be creative and to think of new things and to brainstorm new offers. So there's one example from Ashley. The next example I want to talk about is Lana. So Lana wanted to add VA services, but she did not want to work full time on her business. She'd been working full time on her TPT store, and she had built a lot of standard processes and a lot of funnels for her TPT store. She had some automated email sequences that were flowing, and so she wanted to add on this other thing, but she didn't want it to take up all of her time. So she could kind of put together these standard processes for her offers, but she was finding that she couldn't figure out how to make all those things come together. So as we worked together, we talked about these different things. Okay, where are you feeling stuck about your standard processes? Where are you feeling stuck about your automated processes? And we found that really data analysis was the thing that was missing for her. So we looked at the data and we were able to find where were things going well in her brand? What was her audience interested in based on looking at the data from her social media? And we found ways to work all of that into her brand strategy using the data to help us figure it out. So Lana rewrote the things on her website. And from that, she felt a lot more confident and excited about the things that she was selling because the data had shown her that this is what her audience was interested in. So as she did more of that, her audience was engaging more with her. She actually booked enough clients that she had to open up a wait list. Now, you might not be booking clients, and so this might not fit exactly with you, but the process here is that by looking at the data, you can feel really confident about the choices that you're making. When you have this plan, this system of when you're going to look at the data and what questions you're going to ask about the data, it can shift the way that things are working for your business and you can feel more confident. For Lana, the real takeaway that she had was that she didn't have to sound like other people because she had used her data to figure out what her audience was interested in. And then because she already had this habit of building automated processes and setting up funnels in her business, she didn't have to spend as much time because she had these automatic ways that people were finding her. Third example I'm going to share with you is about Cambria. Cambria wanted to scale her TPT store, but she didn't really know where to start. And when we first started working together, all of Cambria's products in her store were like $3 or less, and she was focused on creating as many products as possible. So she had probably about 120 products in her store, but she wasn't getting a lot of sales. In fact, some of her products hadn't ever sold at all. So the very first thing I wanted to do was look at the data of her business and be able to see, could we create a routine together of looking at your data and using that to help us know where we can make different tweaks and shifts. We worked together to look at her data to understand what it was that her audience wanted from her. And we did some work with her brand to figure out what was it that she was passionate about with her products. We found this happy medium around project-based learning, that she really loved talking about project-based learning, and it was what her audience was purchasing from her. Some of her best-selling products were the things related to project-based learning. So we decided that we were going to kind of rebrand her brand a little bit, but really focus on creating bundles and these automated processes leading towards higher price products related to project-based learning. So we spent some time kind of planning that out and deciding, okay, these lower price products that she had, how could we put things inside of those products to lead her buyers towards her bundles? So we made some shifts together, And the real change, the takeaway that Cambria had was that she was already a real curriculum business. She already had a lot of things happening in her business. She didn't have to wait for this right moment to start taking action as a business owner. And so these automated processes that we set up for her really helped her start selling her products. Now, we worked together over a long time. This wasn't something that happened automatically, but the first step for her was those same first steps that I just talked about with you. Think of one automated process that you can build within your store. Think of one standard process that you do over and over again. Think about one way that you can analyze data. These were the keys and like the building blocks that helped Cambria put it all together for her store. The last example I want to tell you about is May. So when May and I started working together, they really wanted to spend less time on their store. They had a lot of successful products and they were focused on organizing their products into logical bundles. And really, they were seeing a lot of success in their sales. What they weren't seeing is they felt like they were going in circles and they had so many things they had to remember and they had all these different moving parts in their business. And what they wanted to do was spend less time. So that story to me told me that what May needed was some standard processes so that they weren't just doing all these things and trying to remember it over and over again. So we worked together to kind of create some templates that had intentional promotion of their product lines. We kind of standardized their product previews and their product descriptions. And these standard processes that we were building made it so that May felt more organized and they increased their number of repeat customers by promoting their offers within their products. So these automated processes that we were building right alongside those standard processes helped May feel like they knew exactly what to post when they posted a new product and helped May kind of drive their buyers along this logical path, step by step from each product leading to a higher priced offer. The different shifts that were really happening for May can be the same takeaways for you. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment to get organized. You can start with really small changes and they can make an impact in your business. You can use the data to help you see where is that impact happening. Really, the system that was happening for May is the logical path that their buyers are following through their store, from individual products to product lines to bundles. That May had already started grouping their products into bundles, and what we did was we just kind of made those little checkpoints along the way through the product intro pages, the product description, the thumbnails to guide buyers towards the next step. So I share these examples with you to help you see yourself in the process, to help you see where these different types of systems can make an impact for your business. And so here are the next steps that I would invite you to take. Think of one standard process, think of one funnel, and schedule one time that you can look at data. And I'm going to give you just a little refresh of the main points that we hit on. So there's three kinds of systems that you need for your teacher business. The first one is standard processes. And remember, with a standard process at its core, it's just a checklist or a plan. Anything that you do more than once can be made into something standardized. And if it's going to be a standard process, writing it down has to actually work for you and make your life easier. It's your business. You make the rules. It doesn't have to be somebody else's order. How do you actually do it? Take it out of your head and let the checklist own the process so you don't have to remember it all the time. Start with one simple funnel, one way to guide your buyers step by step through each of your offers so that they're connected in a logical way. Don't just have the same page in every product that says, here's 4 products that you might be interested in. Intentionally choose what products to promote there in one funnel to guide your buyers along a path. And then finally, start with one data analysis session. Pick one piece of data that you can look at and ask some questions about that data and use that to make changes to the thing that you're doing. The main message that I want to leave with you, and that I share this a lot. So if you've been to something else I've said before, this is something I talk about a lot, but there is room for you here. There's room for you on Teachers Pay Teachers. There's room for you in the niche that you're in. If you're afraid to go into a new venture like social media or email, there's room for you there. Teachers need the unique perspective that you have to offer. You don't have to be like everyone else. Your business can fit right in with your life, and building these unique systems for yourself are one way that you can make that happen. And if you'd like a partner to help you figure those things out together, I have 3 different ways that I can support you. The first is completely free brand clarity guide. I took one of my most popular workshops to help you find clarity about your brand and made it into a step-by-step Google document where you can fill in the reflection prompts, kind of find some clarity about your brand. The second is, I call it a business sidekick session. All those examples I told you about of those 4 TPT sellers, that's the kind of work I did with them. We meet together. I'm like a sidekick in your business. I come behind the scenes. We talk about how things are going, and I give you some tips and some suggestions about how to build your processes. And then the third thing, this is actually a new offer, so you're the first people to hear about it, but I have a simple funnel planner that guides you through the exact steps I just talked about. How do you plan those intentional things to build a funnel? And this is just for you from this session. So what it is all the things I just talked about. I included a link to my slides. So if you want to look at the things I shared about just barely, there's a link to download my slides right here. And then there's those 3 things I just talked about. If you're interested in free brand clarity workbook, there's a link there. If you want to have me as a business sidekick behind the scenes in your business, here's where you can get on my calendar. And if you're interested in that simple funnel planner, here's where it is. So a little recap, but the slides are here to kind of take you through all those things I just shared.